Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. In a previous video we fixed a leaking boot seal which was caused by the gasket behind the rear light letting water into the boot. And another common problem for letting water into MGTFs is the window seals around the door. It's a problem that my car's got. I do keep getting wet carpets. So what we're going to be doing this week is looking at a cheap fix that you can try to fix the leaking window seals without actually having to replace the whole window seal, and that is going to be using some PVC tubing. So this is just some PVC tubing I picked up from a local DIY store. It was on a big reel, so I think I bought 3 meters of it, which is probably a little bit too much. We'll see when we get out to the car and we cut it down. And the idea being with this stuff is that you can feed it into the existing window seal and it pushes the seal out and gives a good seal again without having to replace the whole seal. So we'll get out to the car, get this fitted and see if it works. Time will tell, so we're going to do some rain over the next few days, so we'll find out whether this is going to work or not then. So this is the window seal that causes all of the problems, or some of the problems for people letting water into the car. And just firstly, you might suspect that this is where the water's getting in, particularly on the driver's side, because you can find that water appears like it's dripping down here, and one of the causes of that is this seal. The other one is this this piece here, and I forget exactly what the name of this is, but these can also sometimes come out of alignment, and if they're out of alignment that can also cause a bad seal down there which lets water in as well. So we're going to try and fix this one first, because one of the ways I think it looks pretty obvious that the seal is not giving a good seal anymore is because it's all crushed in. You can see it's all flat against the seal behind, whereas down here it's all still springy. So what you can do is you get a piece of your PVC tube and you pop it into that gap there. We'll do that in a second, but it goes in there, and then it goes all the way along and pushes the seal out. There is a hole up here which might be able to feed the tube down through. I believe you can feed the tube in here, and then right down at the bottom the seal then disappears off down into here, so we can feed the remainder of the tube down into here, and that should mean that it won't drop out of the door seal. So the thing just to mention is the size. So I bought a 3mm tube, which is this one here. I think it's 3mm, and it's the inside diameter that they measure these by, so 3mm in internal diameter. I think it works out about 5mm external. Now, reading online after I bought this tubing, I think I've worked out that it's probably a little bit smaller than what other people have tried in the past. So you might have read on some of the forums that 5mm tubing also works. So it might be that I'll have to redo this, but the actual process of doing it is exactly the same. So I'll just replace the tubing if it doesn't work. And the difference in the tube size is just that when it goes in here, the bigger the tubing, the more it pushes out and the more it creates a seal against your window. So we'll try with a smaller one, and we may now need to go out and buy some bigger tubing first. So we'll get started by feeding the tubing in through this little hole at the top, and that should, as you push it through, then come out just down here. There you go. And then it appears out of there, and then we pull it down, keep pulling it until we get it out of here. And then, if you remember, there's a hole down here which we can then feed the rest of the tube into, so we'll push that into there. We'll see if we can get as much of the tubing into that hole as possible. So that's as far as that's going to go now. So we'll pull it back this way and then putting the tubing in behind the seal as we pull it out. So it's now nice and hidden, but as you can see it's pushing that seal out a little bit. And now we've got to this point, obviously you've got the excess up here, so what I'll do is just pull it out slightly, cut it off, and then push it back, then we'll pull it back through. Pull it that way, cut it off, and then hide that in there. There we go. All done. And hopefully that should help stop the windows from leaking and ending up with wet carpets. So the tubing is now in the seal. I've got the window up now to show you what it looks like with that seal with the tubing in. And you can see it does push it out a little bit more and pushes it against the window, and that is what will hopefully help stop the water from getting in. As well as this piece not being aligned properly, the other thing that can cause leaks on your windows is if the windows are not aligned properly, which could be what the problem is on this one as well, possibly, just because there is a little bit of a gap here where water could get in down there. So that might be something we'll end up looking at again if this doesn't solve the leaking problem. And if any of you have got any suggestions for how you realign the windows, because it's not something I've ever had to look at before, drop a comment below and let me know. That's always something we can try and cover in another video. So now we've done the driver's side, we're going to repeat the exact same process on the passenger side. So in the end this is a very easy job. Once you've got the tubing, it's quite a straightforward thing to do to put the tubing into the door seals. I bought around about 3 meters of tubing, and I think I've probably ended up with under a meter left. Now some of you might have noticed that I've ended up with more cut off on one side than the other. So on the driver's side I didn't push the tubing down into the pillar of the car, into the seal on the pillar of the car as far, so what you can see is you can push it much further. It might just get caught on a point, but you can push it much further if you want to. I think the reality is you don't need to, because that excess is just there to make sure it stays secure in the door seal. It's not going to do anything. That's not the part of the window that you're trying to seal up. The part of the window that you're trying to seal up is from the dash to the roof line, which is not that long a piece of tubing that you'll need for that. For what cost 50p a metre, on the basis that it works, you're probably not going to get a cheaper fix for this than buying some PVC tubing from your local DIY shop. As I mentioned earlier, this is slightly smaller than I have seen other people using. It just happens that I bought it before I checked what size tubing I needed. So if we need to redo it, we'll just do the whole process again, as I said, with the thicker tubing. So thanks for coming along and watching today's video. I hope you found it useful. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. Until then, we'll see you soon.